All right, guys, welcome back. We have got a massive change to the way that RTA is going to work. It's in the new developers notes. Check it out. We're going to briefly go through some of the major changes, kind of my thoughts on them, and hopefully this will be helpful for people kind of preparing for the new way the game is going to work. Basically, the game's changed massively. So let's go through it. It's starting with World Arena Season 12, and there's a new special league, which we'll get to in a second. Basically, they say, we want World Arena to be good, or RTA as we call it, because they called it that first. That's on them. But Violent Runes are changing massively. We haven't seen this type of change to Violent Runes since they limited them to 1 proc per match. Basically, they're taking what a lot of the community has suggested as a nice fix to Violent Runes and doing it. So let's take a look. Basically, if one player takes a Violent Rune, takes a Violent proc, the other player's chance of taking a Violent proc increases, and your chance of taking another Violent proc decreases. So it's meant to balance it out. So let's see here. Test number 1. When the Violent is activated, the Violent chance of all my monsters will be at 0 until the next turn, so you can't take another one right away. And the chance will be recovered by a certain amount with a fixed chance for every turn afterwards. The opponent will remain at the original activation rate until it gets activated. So everybody else goes to 0, so back-to-back procs are gone, unless there's some edge case I'm missing. Which would probably be something like a Diana taking a Violent and then taking an extra turn through Bargain, and that would, everyone would increase a little bit, that sort of thing. But yeah, you're not going to see just the Gandhi Violence, the Hathor Violence, the Lauren Violence, and you lose. So that's gone. Pretty great. They say, they want both players to have a similar number of Violent activations. So no more complaining about procs, because they're taking that away from you. I mean, it could still be a bad timing, but in theory, you'll get the same number. This to me means, well, we'll talk about what it means in a second. All right, number 2. When the Violent is activated, the Violent chance of all my monsters will be at 0 until the next turn. The chance will immediately be recovered to 22% in the next turn. The opponent will remain at the original activation chance until the Violent gets activated. Interesting. This is to stop one player from having Violent consecutive times and to adjust the activations of both players. So we kind of talked about that. They're just trying to balance it out, right? The following Violent rule will be added to World Arena. So that is overall Violent everywhere. That's pretty nice. That's going to help Siege. That's going to help Guild Wars. They know that Violent is a little bit too much variance for a game that's supposed to be tactical, and you're supposed to be planning out your monsters and planning out your moves and your strategy. For that to just get completely blown up like that through 22% times 3, basically. So they're changing that. But this is what this is what I really care about, the RTA implications. When your monster's Violent gets activated, the Violent chance of all monsters is decreased by 5%. So you go from 22 to 17. When your opponent gets a Violent, the Violent chance of all my monsters is increased by 5%. 27 is the high, 12 is the low. So that's your range. You can go down to 17 and 12, or you can go up to 27. Pretty nice. Still only 1 Violent per turn. And then we've got a little graph here that shows it. Player A, player B. But it's pretty self-explanatory, I would say. But basically, the Violent chances are going to increase or decrease depending on who gets more Violent procs. This alone has major implications to gameplay. We'll talk about that just in a second. So it's another chart here looking at the difference between Violent activations. It's just saying the same thing. It's just kind of explaining it. So let's talk about what this means before we move on to the next major section. So this is all about Violent. PvE content is going to be less ragey. It's going to be smoothed out a little bit due to no back-to-backs, right? The fact that Violent is adjusted in RTA is going to change a lot. I think it's a nerf to the meta, personally, because I think the meta currently is abuse Violent Runes with units that abuse turns. So your Verds, your Laurens, Aegir, anything that abuses turns, because it's not only an extra turn, but they take away another turn from your team or the opposing team based on what they do. So when a Verd procs, it takes away at least a full turn because it's giving everybody 40% bar. So by virtue of one player getting more turns, the other player is losing turns, and it's turn-based. So total number of turns matters massively. So the fact that Violent is being nerfed is a buff to everything that's not Violent, because they're not getting nerfed. They're the same. So Swift is getting a buff. Despair is getting a big buff, in my opinion, because Despair is still the same chance, 25% of taking a turn, right? 25% of proccing proccing a stun, which takes away a turn, and it is not based on accuracy, right? So immunity is getting a little buff because immunity prevents despair. But I think Swift is getting a big old buff because going first is important. And one thing that kind of can kill turn 1 teams is they proc back into the match. You know, if you do a massive amount of damage, I think Cleave is getting a buff. It's pretty crazy. It's nice though. If you have been one of those players farming giants, good job you. You have been farming the correct rune for the new meta or the new play environment. So good job farming giants. If you've been farming the Alunia dungeon with your other energy, special energy, whatever, good job. You're getting will and despair. That's great. So yeah, there's some interesting ways to abuse this system that I can kind of think of off the top of my head, which, I mean, it's Summoner's Worth. They're going to be abused. I, as a turn one like kind of a snipe kill player, I'm considering not using any violent runes because if I don't use any violent runes, if I'm reading this chart right, it's player A's violent activation, player B's violent activation, not individual units. So if you proc twice, you go to 17, you go to 12, I proc 0, I don't see anywhere where you recover back from 12, you know? So I nerf your violent runes to 12% permanently if I never proc violent. Is that worth it to me? I don't know. It sounds good. It sounds really good. For you to be getting 12% less violent runes, especially if I have units on like Despair. My stun ability is 25%, your violent ability is 12%. That's pretty good. So I might consider doing no violent runes, or I might consider abusing one violent unit that I want to proc all the time, right? Because if I only have one unit that can proc, you proc 2 of your violent units, my guy goes up to 27%, it procs, you proc twice, my guy goes up to 27%, it procs. You see what I mean? Maybe just Hathor is my only violent unit, everybody else is on Swift. So Hathor is cycling turns in a targeted kind of, a targeted way based on the new changes, you know? I don't know that you want to bring an extra random violent unit that you don't care about taking violent procs as much, if that makes sense. So, you know, if I'm playing Control, maybe Violent Wusa isn't as important. Do I really care about Wusa turn cycling? I don't know. But I know I care about Hathor turn cycling, or maybe I just want a Violent Bird. Maybe that's my strat. You know, I think we're going to see very intentional use of Violent runes. At least that's me. I don't know that full teams of Violent... I think full teams of Violent massively are nerfed by this, you know? And so that's nice. That'll affect the meta quite a bit. Yeah, so that's kind of my thought. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Currently, my only violent unit that I run regularly is Covenant, and I'm not sure if that's what I want, you know? I'll have to think about it. There'll be a lot of theory crafting on this. Anyway, so massive changes. I think the meta is going to change quite a bit. I think, in general, things are going to get faster. I think Will and Swift are going to be important because they kind of counter each other. So, yeah, it's a nice change. It's really nice because there's so much violent abuse right now. So much. But there's a lot of units that take extra turns that aren't violent too, which is kind of scary. So we'll see. All right, next big thing is the victory point change. So they're changing the way victory points work. And it's just they're changing the max and the min. So here's the before. 1900 above, the max you could gain from winning is 7. The min you could gain from winning is 4. And then the max and the min from losing, max was 6, min was 3. Let's just look at 1900 and above, which is basically Guardian 3, Guardian 1, right? Change 2 based on rank. Guardian is 7 and 3, so they've made the amount you can win from a match in Guardian 3 down by 1, which is a 25% drop, which is kind of a lot. That means Guardian 3 is going to have to grind even more. That means we're going to see less of the super, super high numbers, but not a lot. Not a lot. They don't lose a lot, that's the thing. They haven't changed the number they get from winning. Conqueror, maybe more in this range. 12 and 6 versus 14 and 7, 14 and 6, 15 and 7. Fairly similar. I don't know. This is, I think, meant to smooth out the curve a little bit. There's some big old gaps between like the Fighter and the Conqueror and the Guardian. It doesn't look like it changes what to me is the fundamental issue with the ranking system, is that it's a grind now. It's not a straight like ELO ladder. You know, it protects wins. It protects losses. It protects time investment, right? It's very difficult to play 1,000 wings and not see positive results. Whereas in a straight win-loss, it's all about your win ratio, right? A higher win ratio can make up for less games played, whereas currently, more games played trumps pretty much everything. So that hasn't changed, but that's okay. Like, it's rewarding the people that play it. That makes sense. So that's okay. I mean, little minor changes. There might be some more impact later. I'm not as familiar with how it'll affect the challenger fighter rank. I mean, I can see it, but I haven't played that style in a while, so I don't really know. The main thing it looks like is instead of based on point brackets, it's based on rankings. So that's the thing there. They changed the Guardian cutoff, which doesn't matter at all. I don't know why they did that. Just to make it look better? I don't know. Because Guardian 2s and Guardian 3s always get over 18 and 19. So I guess it's to smooth out the climb, maybe. Because they've changed the points based on the grade. And then they've changed how you can achieve those points. So there won't be a G3 sitting at 1701 taking the same amount of points, I guess. So little minor change there. Here's another one. This one's crazy. Runes. You just doubled all your runes. Congratulations. You can use your same rune box twice. Once in World Arena, once in PvE. That's huge. I think people have been asking for that. That's a huge boon for someone like me that likes to rune units. I love runing units. I think I like runing units more than I like playing with the units I've ruined. So now I get to swap twice. I'll probably have swap going in 2 different browsers. One will be a PvE browser, one will be a PvP browser. And I'll just rune them up. That opens up an entire new portion of the game for everyone. Like for me, I rune RTA first. Everything else is secondary. I've never ruined my account for PvE at all. Not for, Arena, Siege, Guild Wars. Since RTA came out, I've never done that. Now I get to do that. I might get to play Real Arena. I might have my best Swift set on something that's great for Real Arena. I might get to ruin these units full damage that I never would otherwise. Like a slow Lucian Alicia, who I've never even Devilmond. So yeah, I might get to do Real Arena. That'll be fun. I'll get to do Siege like crazy. But the reverse of that is everybody gets that. So every RTA player that ruined like me is now coming to a Siege near you. They're going to be way harder. Siege is going to be way harder. Arena, I think, is going to be way harder. Everything's getting harder in PvE, but it's all of us getting more difficult. It'll be more difficult for everyone together. There's no excuse to not be well ruined and ready to go to help your guild, So that's too bad. No excuses anymore. So they're completely separating the runes into both types of content, which I think it's really cool. So I think we'll see more PvE focused kind of content because people will be thinking about it, And it will just be the RTA zealots like myself ignoring it. So that's a really neat change. I'm pretty excited about that. That opens up new monsters. It opens up new possibilities. I think that'll be really, really cool. So good job, Conquest. That's a great change. RTA is going to get way harder too. Like, how the last week of the season is, oh look, all the awesome players put all their runes on their RTA units and they're crushing people. They'll have those units all the time. So RTA is going to get harder, and that's okay. Maybe more people will play, which will help out the ranks a little bit. One last thing on here, they're doing a new special league. Another special league is probably more accurate. It's another special league where they test all this stuff and make sure it's not crazy broken. Like, the really big people who theorycraft, the maliciouses and AVs and stuff of the world didn't find some little niche to just abuse these changes, Like, something like put one unit on violent and the rest are turn cycling non-violent units that just, the meta's completely changed and it's awful for everyone because you have to have these specific LDs and they can't lose, that sort of thing. So they're going to test it and see what is going on, which is great. I would love a new special league. You know what would also be nice? Come to us. A free rune removal ticket to prepare. Come to us. That would be nice. Why wouldn't you do that? You're giving us a whole new set of runes. Give us more rune removal. Just one for free. Remember that 3-day, 4-day rune removal? Game didn't break. We could do that again. That'd be fun. Let's do that. So yeah, that'll be cool. The last piece that's missing off of here, which I hope is coming, maybe after the special league at some point, is fix the rewards. Fix the rewards. Fix the rewards for RTA. They're not good enough. They're not interesting or inspiring, and they don't reward the time investment. Everything else in the game rewards time investment like crazy. RTA does not, especially when the content is play all the wings. There's not an incentive for the players to play all the wings, other than I spent, if someone spent $10,000, they're like, well, this is the only content where I get to show that matters, so I'm going to play all the wings and I'll get, extra red stars. So let's up the rewards a little bit. Let's make this the centerpiece of the game, because it is the best part of the game. It really just is. The PvE is good, but the PvE is, I think, leads to the RTA, and the RTA needs to be the centerpiece of this game, I think. So let's make the rewards a little better, Comquest. I'm just going to keep saying that till it happens. Let's do that. All right, guys, that is everything for this developer's note, the big changes for RTA Season 12. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Curious to hear your thoughts and your plans, so feel free to leave those in the comments below. If you are interested in being a member of the channel, I've added the join option with a bunch of different little perks. You can be part of a chat. It's all about strategy. We'll do some account reviews. I'll play some of your RTA wings, all that good stuff. So consider joining if that interests you, and I will catch you in the next video. Take care, everybody.